Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys. It sound right, boys.
Hey everyone, welcome to Kempner Canucks. My name is RevTrev, and tonight I've got a special guest. Been trying to get him on the show for a while now, and excited to have Joe Cooper in the building. Well, I guess on internet. Welcome, Joe, to the show. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good, buddy. How are you?
I'm doing great. Now, we have met each other through hockey. You are a very talented man who can do commentating, who can do the music side, who can do the announcing of penalties and the goals. You do an awesome job.
Thank you,
love your passion for hockey. So I'm excited to have you here tonight.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I've worked in broadcasting for many, many years, so I've got experience in television, but working in sports has been kind of always my passion. And I've always been a hockey fan. I grew up a hockey fan, a Canucks fan. And, growing up, like getting to work in hockey, we both met working for the Clippers here in Nanaimo, which is like our home team for the BCHL. But like that passion for hockey kind of keeps people together. Like we have been talking ever since we met the first time, just how much we love this team, this Vancouver Canucks team. And I'm really, really appreciative of you having me here.
Yeah, you're welcome. My privilege. All right, well, let's dive into the game here. Now, I know a lot of fans are disappointed because it's a 3-game losing streak, but at the end of the day, I felt it was like a really good game. Canucks lose 3-1 to the Avalanche. I thought it was very close. It could have gone either way. I was just impressed with how we came out after just such a disappointing loss last night. How did you feel Vancouver played overall tonight against the Avalanche?
Yeah, honestly, like the thing that keeps popping up in my head watching this team play, especially tonight, but like overall, like this is one of the top 5-on-5 teams in the league. And I mean, they wouldn't be where they're at if it wasn't the case, but this team was so close, in fact, so close that they probably, had they scored on those chances that they had, especially in the third period, but if they had scored, they probably win this game. That goal that put the Avalanche up 2-1 was a tip-in goal. So kind of a lucky goal if you consider that. Like, really, they throw it on the net, tips it in. That's how it goes. And then, of course, you got your empty netter. So the empty netter is kind of like whatever. It's a 2-1 game, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So the big stories going into the games, the Canucks had never lost 2 games in a row in regulation all season, which I was like, really? That's amazing. Like up until this point, now it's 3 games in regulation, which is disappointing. But losing to the Jets, losing to the Wild, losing to the Avalanche. I know some fans are going to be really upset now because it's like we're not beating playoff teams. And so are we overrated? Are we slumping at the wrong time? Like what about this team is going to happen? But the good news is Baines is in. A lot of fans have been calling for him. Now, I knew it had to be through injury. But the Surrey sensation plays tonight, and I thought he looked he didn't, in my opinion, look out of place at all in his debut, and he had a great opportunity to score. What did you think about Baines?
I couldn't agree more. I think ultimately, like he's Tocchet's kind of player. When you think about like his defensive game, the way he reminded me actually of Höglander a little bit in how he's a dog on that puck. Like he's going after the guy with the puck and he's taking the puck away more times than not. Like for me, that was the most impressive thing. And I mean, I know the guy, he's one of the AHL top players, but like for him to take that and like keep it going in the NHL, like I was really impressed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. Me too. And I don't know how you feel, but I'm trying to figure out like who's my favorite player on this team because I love so many players there. But I think I keep landing on JT Miller because this guy is literally a machine. If you're a member, post in the chat with the emojis. The Miller is a machine emoji right now. That goal that they scored, him and Brock passing it up. I mean, that was a thing of beauty. And I'm just loving watching because it's not only his goal scoring, but I love his physicality. Like he just takes no bull from anybody. And then he also like initiates stuff. Every time I watch him, I'm like, this is a playoff guy. This is the kind of guy you need on your team to not only play tough during the regular season, but this is the playoff kind of guy. Any thoughts about JT tonight and overall?
There's always one word that comes to mind when I think about JT Miller, and that word is confidence. The one thing this team, when it's slumping like it is right now, quote unquote slumping, but when it's slumping, they lack confidence. JT Miller has been the most consistently confident person throughout the season. The guy is fearless, and I love it. I've always been a fan of JT Miller's, but when the team is doing well like they are this year, it's just like he takes it to a whole nother level. I cannot wait for the playoffs. Yes,
absolutely. He's a playoff machine. So I'm looking forward to that. I felt like Demko played really great tonight. I mean, everyone was kind of panicking regarding DeSmith. I felt like the whole team played terribly last night in regards to defensively. You saw that on the show last night.
Yeah.
But Demko, you can just see there's just a difference. This guy is built different. He's just he's in the right position at most times. When he gets out of position, then it's chaos. And then it's like they usually score on him, but he
gets turned around or something.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. Isn't that weird? Like, how's his back to the, there's once every 3 games, he just kind of does this spin around thing. And
I call that overconfidence.
Yeah. yeah. It's like Steph Curry, he shoots it and he turns it around. It's like it's already in. It's like, no, dude, you got to stay in front of the puck. But I love Demmer. I think he's great. And you saw the difference between tonight and last night. I mean, really, it's like you said, a 2-1 game, right?
Yeah. To be fair, honestly, like last night, I mean, I know it was a blowout loss last night. I don't entirely blame that all on DeSmith. DeSmith was okay, to be fair. Like he had his moments, but I think overall the team kind of collapsed, and I think that's what, especially the defense, right? Like you when you give up 4 5-on-3s, that's bound to happen. Those kind of things are bound to happen. So it was a bad game overall. And I think the team would argue or would agree that, it's just kind of like, that's what it is. I don't imagine we're going to see a lot of those for the rest of this season. But it's these games like tonight where they're right in it. They're right in it with one of the better teams in the league. That shows that the Canucks are a good team this year. There's no disputing that, I think. Really what it comes down to is, can they stay out of their own heads and can they play to their potential because of that?
Absolutely. And then what is the dealio with like Ryan Johansson scoring 2 goals on us? Is like, really?
It's always BC boys. That's one of the things. Whenever I'm watching a broadcast and then Shorthouse says something like, oh, local kid, I'm like, oh, here we go. Here we go. Let's see what happens now. And then there's always it's that, and then the people who are in their first career games or waiting for their first career goal, always against Vancouver. Maybe that's the pessimist in me, but that's something I always notice.
It just feels like it gets amplified, right?
Yeah.
So
it's scary, but it is true.
Yeah. And then Zadorov and Lindholm get hurt, but the good news is they continue to play. I don't know what happened with Zadorov. They said he might have cut his knee, but I was thinking if he got his knee cut, and if they say they had to stitch it up, I don't know if you heard in the program later, but like that's a kind of an important part that's always moving.
Yeah, it's
like,
weird
how do you keep it?
It's weird because the broadcast, when I heard Dave Tomlinson, who was the color commentator, was talking about it, he was talking about it being his left leg. But when he gets up, you can see it's his right leg that he's not able to put any weight on. So I don't know if it was actually his knee or if maybe it was his ankle or something like that. I'm really hoping that he's okay. Obviously, like having somebody like Zadorov, having a guy that size who's that physical, like it does play a huge part into how we finish this season. And obviously like having Lindholm, if he's hurt, like that's the whole reason we got him, was so that he could help us elevate our game, especially with the center depth. Like the team was like one of the best, like face-off. This was one of the best face-off games I've seen this year. They won more face-offs than I've seen it all year. It's incredible.
Yeah. And there's lots of people here watching tonight already. There's lots of comments in chat. We're going to get into your comments, everyone, just so you know. But I really wanted to kind of talk about this game first.
Yeah.
We had a disappointing moment where Hughes on the power play, hits the crossbar. I thought that was going in. I mean, that's the one that ties it up.
Yeah.
Everyone. I mean, at the end of the day,
like in that third period, there was probably like 6 or 7 chances that could have been sure goals. And that's what I meant when I said like Canucks probably win this game had they scored on any one of those chances. But like it is what it is. Like sometimes the universe just doesn't let it happen, But at the same time, it comes down to just dumb luck and also momentum.
Yeah. And then tonight, I know that people always want to rag on the refs, right? But tonight, Bluger jumps over. I think it's Manson. He jumped over, then gets up and gets this good scoring chance. There was another
pass from Baines too.
Right. And then there was a couple moments where I felt like we kind of got away with murder. You know what I mean? It was like, how come that's not a penalty against us?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. And I find that that's the way NHL reffing is, like, especially in the third period where they don't want the refs to decide, where the refs don't want to decide a game, which I understand, like the comments are going to be like, the refs are always deciding games. But in this particular case, it's the third period and it's near the end of the game. They're going to kind of let certain things, they're going to let them get away with certain things. And I think that's an example of it. I've saw it a couple of times where, especially early in the third, where they were calling penalties that probably shouldn't have been called too. Right. And that's just how it goes sometimes. But, we as fans, we can get super upset at the refs for causing us to lose games, but it's not really the refs that are causing us to lose the games. It's the players not being able to defend those power plays or penalty kills, or, in this case, not scoring on the power play when we have that chance too.
Yeah. Okay. So last thing I really want to talk about this game is Hronek gets a glorious chance. How does he miss during the scramble? And then it gets blocked. Why does he wind up with a slap shot? I'm like, what is going on?
I know.
It must just be a natural reaction or something. But I'm like, wouldn't it like just a quick wrist shot just up top? So I didn't understand that. I mean, how they didn't score it before that, and then the scramble comes and the pass comes across, and it's like, dude, just get it on the net.
So I have my theories when it comes down to all of this. And it's funny you say that, because I was listening to Sportsnet, the radio, after the game, and Satyar Shah, who's one of the announcers on Sportsnet, he was talking about the exact same thing. Everyone who's watching is going, why are you taking a slap shot here? Like, why are you clapping it when you have a chance to just quickly wrist it? His wind up just to clap it gives the defense a chance to get in position to block that shot. And that's exactly what happened. So my theory is the reason why he did that is, you've heard of the saying, gripping your stick too tight. That's exactly what's happening in that position. He wants to make sure that puck goes in the net. So he's thinking, I need to slap this so I can shoot it hard so it has a chance to just go straight into the net. And I think it's just in his head, right? Like they're down. He doesn't want to lose 3 in a row. And that's exactly what happens because it's all in your head.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause it's natural at that moment. It's not like I'm going to do this now. It's like,
It's basically a panic play, 100%. And there's so many bodies in front of that net. He's thinking, I need to shoot this hard so it gets through these bodies and has a chance to score. And I think that's what he was thinking more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, let's dive into. I mean, we have like probably 100 comments here, so we got to get through these. But no word of a lie, within 7 minutes of this broadcast tonight, I finished the game. I had so many things going on. Yeah. Finally got home. There was a couple extra things with family stuff that I needed to do. And so I'm watching the game. I'm like, oh my goodness, we're not at 9:45. We're at 9:30 tonight. I got to get, I think at 9:23, I'm like, I got to get down here and put all this stuff. So if anyone's upset, we were a couple minutes late. Relax.
You can blame it on me. You can blame it on me. No, say it's Joe's fault. We had to get the simulcast going.
So I know fans are going to be upset. So first comment of the day, Jarvis, a little upset about this, right? Yep. It's the open nets they keep missing and getting robbed. We just talked about that. So how you doing? How are you doing? How are you doing? You know, good to have you here. Yeah. Disturbed jumps in, talks about the same thing. Yeah. You know, about the wrist shot instead of the slapper. It's pretty upset about this. Cole didn't even touch him. The reffing is unbearable.
It is frustrating. I can see where people are coming from, and it's true. It is frustrating to watch because you're thinking like every Canuck fan is sitting here going the refs just have it out for us, all because of that comment that Tyler Myers said, right? But in the end, like we have to think of it like the team is capable of defending a power play, or they have a decent penalty kill. It's really up to the team to make sure that the other team doesn't score. And if they don't, it's on them more than it is on the refs. The ref sees something that might resemble a penalty, they're going to call it.
Yeah. Yeah. And people are talking about the chat right here, hooking and diving. I think what people are really upset about really is the embellishments.
100%.
It's like, and shockingly, this is what I was surprised when JT Miller nailed Scheifele, and they actually called it against Scheifele for embellishment. I was shocked. That never happens. And it's like, well, so we can't always say that nothing goes our way that way. That was definitely, I'm like, JT totally hammered him.
I have an interesting theory when it comes to reffing. So we human beings, we have a problem with the reffing when it comes to human beings being refs, right? There's always going to be some sort of bias when it comes to it. That's what you're going to always think of as a fan, right? But imagine we had robot referees. So if we had robot referees, think of the amount of penalties there would be on a regular basis. Then you can kind of go, okay, well, yeah, that's a good point. Because like if you had robot referees, there would be penalties like every few minutes because it's a fast-paced, hard-hitting game. And so we have to kind of understand that, like, there is a human aspect of things. So maybe Tyler Myers shouldn't have said that comment about referees. But in the end, I think they know that they're calling a professional game. Like, they're going to call stuff that they see or think they see. And they do it for the Canucks too on the other side. So,
yeah, no, 100%. And we need to remind ourselves the moment, like, we're biased towards Vancouver. 100%. And in the NFL, they're complaining about refs. In the NBA, they're complaining about refs. In soccer, or what I call diving.
Don't get me started on here.
Right? Like, so it's just not our sport kind of thing. Yeah. And we have to remember that these are literally the best referees in hockey in the entire world. So if they're making mistakes, it's a fast game. And, sometimes they do make mistakes. I totally agree with it. But at the end of the day, I'm always looking at through the Canucks lens. So I have to remind myself.
I think we all are, for sure. Yeah,
absolutely. Okay. Galactic Waffle here. I love that name. And I think I like his logo even better. I wonder if when the NHL warned Detroit and Van to behave, if the refs are calling more or being extra vigilant. That's a great, I wonder, who knows? I wonder if there's been a memo going out to the league saying that, right?
It would be really interesting to kind of be a fly on the wall just in the referee's room, like just to listen to the conversations they're having with each other in terms of like the decisions they have to make, right? And it's obviously like it's got to be the hardest job in the world when you consider nobody likes you. You're out there and everybody hates you. unless you're calling things the home team's way or whatever, right? So,
well, if the home team wins, then they're happy. They're happy.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Daniel says wide open nets, no killer instinct, defensively better, but that's it. Last game, they got humiliated. Dad's in the press box, and Colorado gets first 5 shots. I mean, I didn't realize that. That's bad. They should have come out with fire and edge. I don't know. After a big emotional, disappointing loss yesterday, I was actually quite surprised how well they came out in that first period. But what do you think about that?
It's all perspective, right? Like, we're all kind of looking at it through, like you say, the Canucks lens. But at the same time, like, you have to consider the way that the game opened. Vancouver scored first, and it was on, if I remember correctly, I think it was on their like first or third shot or something, wasn't it? Like, it was like really early.
No, it was later on.
Was it? Okay. I might be thinking of yesterday's game, actually. Anyways, either way, I think the perspective you have to look at it defensively, like he says, defensively better. I 100% agree with you on that. Like, they were really, really good defensively today. And I think that is a kind of response to yesterday's game, considering they technically didn't play well defensively because they gave up 10 goals. But also, again, the 5-on-3, that's a really hard thing to defend, and I think what it comes down, if you can go back to his previous comment for 1 second, he says wide open nets, which is 100% true. Like, they had so many chances for wide open net shots today. I think we also have to consider the fact that Colorado played really well defensively too. They got in the way of every single chance they had for an open net. There was a specific moment where, and it was a beautiful play, by the way, where I can't remember who it was. I think it was maybe Besser tipped the puck, and it was an open net for like Hoglander or something, but he couldn't get the puck because of the way they were defending. So you have to give credit where credit's due. And Colorado played really, really well defensively today too. Yeah. It was like really 2 great defensive teams really going at it. And that's why I think it was a really good game, because Vancouver held their own against them.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing that I really try as a passionate, realistic and honest Canucks fan, that I actually like to give other teams credit. Yeah. Like, man, Colorado played well. Now, granted, we lost 5-2 to Colorado last time.
Yeah.
And basically this is a 2-1 loss. So there's progress, but we're not satisfied with that. We didn't win. And I know it's a winning sport, playing at the highest level, but I do think we need to give Colorado, like you're saying, credit for the way that they played. And I don't know about you, but when I look at this roster, I always look at them like, why is this team so good? Why is the Avalanche so good? And my wife is watching the game and she's like, how come as long as I've watched hockey with you, Colorado's been good? And I'm like, man, she has a point. Right.
Well, and it comes down to
been like 25 years, man.
Yeah.
And she's like, since we've been together, they've never been bad. And I'm like,
yeah. Well, I mean, technically that's not true, because they were bad when they got first overall, or not first overall, but they got like Makar and Bo Byram. They had to finish low to get those players.
He wasn't watching then either.
But I mean, you consider the fact that Vancouver's been out of the playoffs for how long now? Like 10 years. They've been really good since. Don't include the bubble, but I mean, it's definitely an interesting comparison. But yeah, no, you have to give other teams credit when it comes down to it, because it's not just Vancouver versus everybody. It's everybody versus everybody, and everybody's good in their own way. So yeah, I mean, there are teams that are they're not going to be very good against teams like Vancouver, because Vancouver is one of the best teams in the league. We need to remind ourselves that, by the way, Canuck fans, Vancouver is one of the best teams in the league, believe it or not. And they're going through adversity right now, which is exactly what they need to go through in order to perform in the playoffs. You have to think of it as a positive, man. The Canucks need to go through this so they understand what they're actually playing for. So I think that's kind of the realistic aspect of the fandom that I have personally, is like, this is something they need to go through. Yes, I admit I was swearing at my TV when they're getting scored on, or when he's taking a slap shot on a wide open net. Absolutely. But, you have to look at it kind of with a wider lens and kind of go, you know what? This is something that needs to happen for them to be able to realize what they're playing for. I think they're going to come out next game against Seattle, a much stronger team. And I think they're going to play a lot harder, to the net instead of from the point, which is something they need to do. My biggest frustration this game specifically, and in the last few games, is that power play. They just keep it on the outside. They're just pass, nothing. It's just, for me, that's the most frustrating thing, because we know what this team is capable of offensively, and they're not performing to that level.
Yeah. Now, there's been something that I've been kind of bringing up for a number of months because of this whole Pettersson contract. And in the comments, there's some talk. So I just want to kind of premise it here for a second. And it feels like it's growing. Pettersson's been, in my opinion, slumping. He hasn't been driving the line. He has moments of brilliance where he can stick handle and do his thing, but then it's like, but where are you? Like, and I made a video called Petey the Ghost, and a lot of people were really upset that I made this video, and I understand that, but I mean, I understand he's still up there in the points race, and so it's not that he's having a horrific year, but there's just seems to be something off, and fans are starting to get to the place where they're like saying things like, right here, if Petey wants $12 million, these are the games he has to come through, which I agree. Disturb goes in and says, I've been saying all year, Petey isn't worth 12, not even close. He's not a difference maker or a line leader. Majority of his points are on the wing, 8 to 9 max over 8 years. If not, try and package him. I just wanted to kind of get your thought, Joe, on these comments, and just like, are you seeing the same thing, or are you thinking like this guy's young and he's going to turn it around? What are you thinking?
Well, I'm kind of on both sides, to be honest. Like, I was watching Donnie and Dolly today on Check, and they were talking exactly about that, about how, this guy's going to be demanding something like $12 million a year. And he's obviously not playing to that potential. And I agree, he's not. However, that doesn't mean he won't play to that potential. It doesn't mean that, in the playoffs, he's not going to turn it on. We don't know these things. Like, obviously, there's always that capability. And maybe that's why he wants to wait till the year is over to kind of see what it ends up being. And then we'll decide, what he's actually worth. He probably, in my opinion, I think he probably signs another bridge deal. This is my thought. He signs another bridge deal where it's going to be something like, 10 million, 11 million. And that could be like a 2-3 year deal. And then he becomes a UFA at the end of that, so he can decide what he wants to do, whether it's go to the market or stay with Vancouver, depending on what Vancouver does at that point and where they're at, in terms of contender or not, right?
No, it's good thoughts. Good thoughts.
Yeah.
So James jumps in and says, we're a pretty good team when at mid-February mark, it's your first 3-game loss. That's a great perspective.
I was thinking about this earlier. Like, you compare this season so far to what we had in 2010, 2011, and it's not far off. That season, and I remember I lived in Vancouver during that time. I was going to games all the time, and it was just like electric. This season, it's there, but it's just, there's something. I feel like there's something we're missing this year, and maybe that is what happens when maybe we get that when there's a trade or something that happens at the deadline. And maybe we get a little bit more, on that back end, or maybe some more depth in the bottom 6.
Yeah, and I really like his positives here. Like the comment, they shut down McKinnon. You know what? I didn't think about that. They did, and when McKinnon is out there, he is electric. Like, you're sitting there going, I understand why he's considered one of the best players in the league. It's like when he gets the puck, you're like,
I have always loved McKinnon. He's like the kind of player I would absolutely love to have on our team. That is technically what Mikheyev was supposed to be. The speed and the hands. Those are the two things that McKinnon has, like, in bunches, right? And I've always loved McKinnon for that. And this might be a hot take, but I've always been a bigger fan of McKinnon than McDavid's. And And the reason why is more for his two-way play. But that's just me.
Wow. And you know what? I don't think there's a big drop off there. I know that everyone's like McDavid, you know, like
right?
it's that, it's like the Crosby era aura or whatever, right? But who would you? So I guess I probably know the answer to this question, but would you take McKinnon over like Austin Matthews?
It's hard not to roll my eyes at Austin Matthews just because he's on the Leafs, right? But no,
Well,
Austin
just
Matthews
take him off the Leafs, like just as a player, right?
Yeah, I know. I would take McKinnon for his speed alone over Matthews. Yeah. And again, his defensive play too. He's a really good back checker. He's a really good back checker. He's a really good forecheck. Like he is exactly what Vancouver needs Mikheyev to be. And Mikheyev does have some really good back checking skills. Like he's a decent two-way guy. And again, I think a lot of Mikheyev's issues are again in his head. Like the guy hasn't scored in forever, and that's what he wants to do. But his problem is when he goes to shoot, it's just like nothing. He shoots it right at the goalie's chest. Like he's not really trying to score, even though he should be.
Okay, I want to jump into David W's comments. He lives in Toronto, and he said that that Craig Button says that there's no need for Canucks fans to be concerned. Oh boy, he is so wrong. So he's kind of panicking a bit. I feel like a lot of our fan base is. Do you share those comments, or do you think it's like, hey, this is just a?
So I mean, the logic in me, the logic minded person in me is like, yeah, he's not wrong. We probably shouldn't be concerned considering we're still top of the league, but he doesn't know what it is to be a Canucks fan. We're always concerned, man. Until we get that cup, we're always going to be concerned. So yeah, like there's always going to be that pessimist in you that's like, yeah, okay, the Canucks are like top of the league right now, but how long is that really going to last? And what is it really going to do in the playoffs? Like, what are we really going to look like in the playoffs? Yeah. So yeah, like Canuck fans are always going to be concerned until we literally are hoisting a cup in the air saying, and hearing John Shorthouse say the Vancouver Canucks are Stanley Cup champions, even though I'm sure John Shorthouse won't be calling Game 7 of the Stanley Cup or any of the games in the Stanley Cup final because it's a national feed. So it'll be some Toronto guy, but that's me. That's just more annoying stuff.
Absolutely. And then, so you do have the pessimistic side. I like Curtis here, who comes in and says that was a better game compared to yesterday. Yeah. James comes in and says this game could have gone either way, like we had already said. Colorado got the bounce, okay, but then he says I like Vancouver in a 7-game series. Wow, against Colorado too. Like they kind of they're 2-0 against us, right? So that's a bold statement there by James.
I'll tell you what, that's not that hot of a take. I think I feel the same way. To be honest, I think Vancouver has more in the tank than what Colorado would have. I would love to see these guys go against each other in the playoffs. I think it'd be an incredible series. I just the way we have to look at it as fans right now is this is the regular season. They still have another level that they're going to go to when the playoffs start, and that's where I'm excited to see. I cannot wait to see that level. Towel power back in Rogers Arena is going to be incredible.
Yeah, no, you're right. Shannon comes in and says, what happened to the Canucks? Well, if you just watch the rest of this video, you'll understand.
I feel like Shannon asked that question yesterday.
She might have. I
remember seeing that question yesterday.
Well, and yesterday's game was such more of an emotional game, right?
Yeah. That question could mean many things.
Yeah, and then Angelo is panicked for sure.
Well, I think what Angelo means by that is I think that the team is panicked, and I think you're right. A lot of that comes down to just gripping the stick too tight. Those wide open shots. You could have scored at least 3 goals there with wide open nets, and we couldn't do it. And a lot of it is because they're gripping their sticks too tight, and a lot of it is the defense on Colorado's side too. They played really well, and the goaltending.
Yeah, and then he goes, imagine falled out next 27 games, missed the playoffs, and oh my goodness. But James comes in and says, even if the bottom falls out, I'd still be grateful for the way they played so far. Look at this really logical. You know what? We've exceeded expectations, but I would be disappointed if the bottom falls out. Like I'm gonna make it like 27 videos of ranting of why, but we're not gonna. We're making the playoffs, but they have had some great moments and exciting moments, and I think there is a lot of appreciation. And we don't want to be negative Nellies here for sure, but you know, at the end of the day, we've lost 3 in a row. So
yeah, I think honestly, like if the bottom were to fall out and they were to lose the rest of the season, I think that we probably would start seeing some coaches get fired, because honestly, the reason the Canucks are where they're at is because of the structure they've been playing all season consistently. I would say your chances of that happening are like 0. Like they're gonna come right back from this loss, this series of losses, 3 games in a row. They're on a losing streak right now. They're gonna come back from it, and you'll start seeing them win a game pretty soon. Yeah, I would say even possibly against Seattle, but we'll see. I don't want to guarantee anything. I'm just saying I think their odds of winning that game are pretty good considering what they've just gotten beat from. So
yeah. I don't know if you've met Jorg yet from Nanaimo Shoe Repair. Great
No.
dude. Go to Bruce Avenue, connect with him at the store. He's a great guy. But he just kind of keeps us in perspective. We're still number 1 overall. Not too bad. I mean, think about it. You're going on a 3-game losing streak, and you're still number 1. And here's the other one I'm sure you know, Joe, is when Edmonton went on that 16-game winning streak, they caught up to us by 3 points or something like that.
I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, it was something like when it was like 13, 14 wins, they had only caught up 3 points on us because we were winning as well.
Okay, I see.
And that's what I'm saying is like it's just amazing how great our team's been. And this is where Jorg is Mr. Optimist. He's already planning. He's been planning the parade since September, you know, and I appreciate him.
I know Clay's an optimist too, right? Like when I watch his videos, I'm always like, okay, you know, I love Clay. He's awesome, but like, he's definitely an optimist, right? When you have to consider the realistic aspect of it, and the realistic aspect of it is they are going to lose sometimes, but really what matters to me is how they lose. If they put an effort like they did tonight and they lose, I'm okay with that because they're still playing to that structure and they're playing 5-on-5 still top of the league. And that's the most important thing. They really got to get that power play fixed. But after that, I think we'll start seeing them improve their game even more.
So I'm going to show you a number of comments here, and it's all around one very popular player in Vancouver.
Yep.
And I just want to get I'm going to show a bunch of comments, and then I want to get your take on this player. Okay. Seems like the most hated player in Vancouver right now is Mikheyev. So you get call up Podkolzin, Wave Mikheyev. You've got James saying I'm having a real tough time with Mikheyev. Guy can't buy a goal, which is true. Yeah. Jorg is saying trade him. Mikheyev needs to go, Shannon says. Angelo says Mikheyev sucks for sure. Trade him. I like this one by Japan for Mikheyev for Tanev. I'd do that in a heartbeat. If there was no draft picks, I'd do that in a heartbeat right now.
That'll never happen.
Look at this one. Dreamer says, scratch Mikheyev. I want to hear your take on Mikheyev.
Sorry, I'm trying to look at Cat Friendly because I want to see
4 point.
I know
he's
for how many more years?
2 or 3 years.
2 or 3. Okay, let's see, Mikheyev. Yeah, so he's got 3 more years. He's got 3 more years at 4.75. So I was constantly thinking like there has to be a way for them to be able to trade Mikheyev to clear that cap space because that they need the cap space in order to make the moves they want to make. But with 3 years, that's going to be really hard. The only way they're going to be able to do that is if they throw in a really high draft pick, right? 3 years including this year, so 2 more years after this year, right? That's what it means. So It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. I agree. They should probably look at doing that because of the fact that right now he is hurting the team more than he's helping the team. Especially like on that line, like he's on the fourth line now. Right. So yeah, it's going to be tough. Does he have a no move clause?
It should say right there.
I have to click.
Because if there's nothing there, then he doesn't. I just don't see any. Why does some other team want to pay $4.75 million with a guy who's slumping, hasn't played on a team that's scoring a lot of goals, and now has been demoted to the fourth line? Who wants a guy like that? Now, here's the other side to it, Joe, is he's actually not fully healed from his injury. In fact, everyone, even Thomas Drance was saying it's 2025 when you're going to see him hit his stride.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know that it's a win now league, and I get it, and we're very frustrated. We do not like contracts where guys don't earn their money. But at the end of the day, that was a really serious injury that he's even back from, and I've been impressed with that. I feel the sentiment of the fans and going so frustrated with this guy.
Yeah, I agree. I think you're right. I think really what it comes down to is you have to consider what's possible, and the only way they would even be able to get rid of Mikheyev is if you're packaging him with something that like either a high draft pick or a really good prospect that we probably don't want to lose, right? And I'm talking like Karamaki, like that kind of thing, right? So really, how desperate is the team to do that? I think they're probably not that desperate. And yeah, you also have to consider one other thing that we're not talking about. And what that is, are they desperate to win the Stanley Cup this year? I think no. And what I mean by that is, what I mean by that is I don't think the team even planned on getting where they're at the beginning of the season, right? Yes, they want to play well in the playoffs. They want to get this team experience in the playoffs. That's what they really want. And I think that if they don't trade Mikheyev, this is what I'm thinking right now. I'm just now thinking of this. If they don't trade Mikheyev, they keep him until the offseason. Maybe they trade him in the offseason because it'll be a little bit easier. Or they hold on to him until next trade deadline and make something happen then. I honestly think the team is not in desperation mode to win the Stanley Cup this year. I think they want to create a sense of like confidence in this team so that going forward, they're going to be a contender for many years to come. And many years could be like 3 to 5 years. But in the end, I think that's what they really want.
I guess the reason why I'm a little surprised at that comment is because of the trades they've made.
Yes.
Especially the Lindholm deal. To me, at this stage, is a rental.
Yeah.
And if you're not kind of wanting to like we're putting our best foot forward, even the Zadorov deal, because it sounds like he wants $5 million for 5 years.
Yeah.
Like I don't see if that's what he lands on. He's like, he's not gonna stay in Vancouver.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't like us moving those draft picks and the draft. You've heard me say this, so it's not like it's new. But I feel like this is where they're all in. But it's interesting because I don't think we give up. Like, say we did Mikheyev and our first rounder next year for Tanev. I think that's just a bad hockey deal for us. Like, why are we always trading first round picks? We got to keep some of those, you know?
It's true. It's so true. And you also have to consider if we traded for Tanev, especially next year's first overall pick, or first round pick, I mean, then you have to consider how long is Tanev even going to play for? Because, he's only got probably a few years left, really, right? And then
if we sign him back, he's a UFA.
Yeah, exactly. When you're with your comment about oh my God, Zadorov. I actually believe Zadorov doesn't sign with Vancouver in the offseason. I think he wants too much money, and I don't think Vancouver can afford him. So I don't believe necessarily that he is in their future plans. However, that being said, there could be something stirring up for the trade deadline.
Do you think they'll move Zadorov before the playoffs?
Well, think of it this way. If they know that he wants too much money and they know that they can't sign him and they know that there are people who are willing to pay for him, they could trade him for something in return, maybe even just a draft pick, and use that for something even better, right? Like Tanev as an option. I'm just thinking trying to think outside the box. Like
imagine they trade him back to Calgary because he doesn't want to go back to Calgary.
I don't see that happening, but I know that there are teams like Toronto who absolutely want somebody like him. And if Toronto can't get Tanev, maybe they'd be willing to throw Vancouver a bone and get a decent draft pick back. Not that I don't even know what kind of draft picks Toronto has. They're constantly 2 or 3 draft picks every year, but they seem to find ways to draft good players. But maybe there's that possibility. I think ultimately, like what I've found myself doing is I'm not blindly, but I'm kind of like trust in Allvin and Rutherford. They seem to be doing things that you just kind of like, what? Where did that even come from? They know what they're doing. It's just they're not leaking it out to us. So we are kind of constantly guessing as to what their plans are.
Oh, yeah.
I honestly think everything we're saying is a potential possibility, right? It's just I think I'm just sort of setting myself up to not be surprised. and I see a comment where somebody just said injury prone Tanev. You're right. Like Tanev can
he played for Vancouver.
But the guy throws his body in front of pucks like you wouldn't believe. Consider the fact that he's got no teeth left because of how many times he's been in the face with a puck. Just because he threw his face in front of that puck. It's crazy. And it's incredible. I think every team wants a guy like that. Wants a guy who's willing to die for his team, so to speak. And I remember him in that Minnesota series, in the play-in series, in the bubble. It was just like incredible, It'd be awesome to have him on our team again.
Okay, so I would love to have Tanev. I just don't want to give any more picks away. So I'm at the I feel like I'm capped out. I'm tapping out here. You know what I mean?
And I think honestly, Trev, that is probably the pessimist Canuck fan in you who's like, I don't want to give up any more draft picks because what happens if they get knocked out in the first round and we can't build this team up from the draft up? And you're right. You're absolutely right. But also at the same time, this is where I'm going. I need to trust in what Allvin and Rutherford are going to do because I think they have a plan to improve this team for the future. So it's just a kind of, let's see what happens.
Yes. And I think you're right about that. But for me, I want us to keep Zadorov because I want to see him in the playoffs. He's a playoff kind of guy. How many times have you seen Zadorov level somebody?
Yeah.
And then he's looking around going, okay, who's going to fight me? And nobody, it's like, I'm not going after that guy. I don't care if they just killed my player. We need guys like that in the lineup, in the playoffs. I think that's the only way we bring them back is if Zadorov has an amazing playoffs.
Okay, so let me ask you,
difference maker, gets a goal or two in those big moments, helps us to win a series. He is physical. I just don't know if we're going to see a playoff Zadorov or just what we've seen right now. And that's what I'm very interested in watching.
So let me ask you this. Gun to your head, you have a choice between one of two players. You can either get rid of Zadorov or Tyler Myers. Who do you choose?
I'm keeping Zadorov.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't think Myers is back anyways, unless we like. If you saw my 2024 predictions video for the contracts, I said if Myers comes back, they give him $2 million a year and he comes back. That's what you have to do.
Yeah,
in a reduced role, Myers has been much better this season, and I think it's because you have a guy like Zadorov and like Cole. And these guys can eat up minutes, so you don't have to rely. When you have to rely on Myers, he's terrible. But when he's 100%. Playing in a role like this, actually, he's playing quite good.
I think, I really think it does depend on who his partner is because, Tyler Myers, he has a tendency of trying to be a forward. And when that happens, it really puts the team in a like a weakened position defensively. So like he decides to skate the puck up and go to take the puck to the net. Well, now who's taking his place on the defense? You got somebody like Connor Garland, like back there, where probably the roles should be reversed. Like that's the thing that frustrates me the most about Tyler Myers is I think he thinks he's better than he is sometimes. Yes. on an offensive scale.
Right.
So yeah, no, I 100% agree with you. I would totally take Zadorov over Myers because I think he will be a playoff performer. And I think Myers might, I don't know. I don't know what to expect from him during the playoffs.
Myers always takes dumb penalties in the playoffs.
Yeah. Well,
but we'll see.
It's not even just the playoffs. It's when a game means something. He just like, it's
well, he didn't tonight. He didn't tonight.
I know, yeah, it's incredible because like, there are times he takes a penalty and I'm like, what are you doing? Like,
it's when he tries to play like Chara.
Yeah.
Because he gets in trouble because he's not Chara. Okay. So a Jets fan, Twisted Wolf, welcome to the channel. I noticed you've been posting a bunch of things, so I'm really glad you're here. Hope to meet you guys in the playoffs. That would be a fun series. That's what I said after losing you guys. That was playoff hockey. It was super entertaining. It was super awesome. I know that we have a difficult time with the Jets in the playoffs traditionally and in the regular season. But at the end of the day, if we end up playing the Jets, it's probably because we're in the Western Conference Finals.
I was going to say that.
So I would love to see a Jets like imagine Western Conference Finals, Jets or Canucks, and one of those two teams is going to the Stanley Cup. Like,
yeah,
you got to be happy as a Canadian fan, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I constantly think about, the potential of having like Canucks, Leafs Stanley Cup final. I honestly don't see the Leafs making the Stanley Cup final, but that would be pretty cool to have. I think it would be like a dream for both Sportsnet and TSN for that to happen because they're all Leaf, they love the Leafs. But anyways, I think,
yes,
to have like a Jets Canucks Western Conference final, I think would be pretty darn cool too.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of like having them be able to get out of the first round, having them be able to get out of the second round. Like, yeah, it's going to be tough, but it would be really cool.
Yeah. So something that was in the comments that I've been banging on this drum for a while. I've been super impressed by Noel Juleson, and he became a legit NHL D-man in his eyes today. Callum, I don't know what you've been watching, but this kid's been great all year. Like,
yeah, he has.
I mean, I've been really impressed with him. Did you know that he's a first-round pick?
Yeah.
He's like 27th or something overall.
Who drafted him though?
Islanders, I believe.
Yeah, I knew it was an Eastern team. I couldn't remember which one.
But man, I've been impressed with him. I mean, a lot of people are like, "Oh my goodness, we'll have to have him." Like, he's legitimately, he's a talk-it kind of player.
Yeah.
Young, and he's like, we are first in the NHL. We're playing incredible hockey, and this guy doesn't look out of sorts, in my opinion. So.
And you have to think of it this way too. He's getting better as the year goes on. Right. Like
100%.
He's having a better game every game as the year goes on. Like, yeah, he's definitely impressed me a lot with his defensive play, but also the way he passes the puck. Like, he's made some really sweet passes this year. It's been really cool to watch.
Yeah. I also think another reason why we've kind of been struggling, and I use that lightly because, I mean, we scored 7 goals yesterday.
Yeah.
Is the Swedish line. The Swedish chefs, as I like to call them, they've been quiet. I think I'm trying to give Lindholm you haven't played on this team before. You haven't played on this line before, but I love the Swedish line. Have you seen my new banner? My new, my Swedish chef line. Have you seen this yet?
I don't think I have. Oh, that's awesome. I love it. That's great.
And I love that Höglander's on this line and Pettersson, but when I look at this line, the guy who I've been most impressed with is Höglander.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No doubt.
And it's like, why these other two guys make way more money. And it's like the young guy is like outproducing you guys. Now, I feel like there's going to be some kind of connection that's going to like click. And it's like you need time to bring chemistry. And it's like we are too impatient, in my opinion.
I remember watching I was at Rogers Arena when they drafted Höglander. It was and I like when you're at a draft, I don't know if anybody else was there, but like when you're at a draft, like they call your team and your team calls a player, you immediately go to Elite Prospects and like look up this player, right? And then you go to Twitter and all that kind of stuff. And I remember going on Twitter and like people were talking about Höglander as being this like hard-nosed, like fast and like strong kid. And they had this video of him like doing the juggling on a unicycle, which is the same thing we saw with Elias Pettersson when he was drafted. But I remember seeing this and I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then I'm seeing all the comments about who he is. And there's like little video clips of him playing and stuff. And he's doing things like bouncing the puck off the backboards behind his back just to get away from a guy. And like just all these creative plays to get to open the ice more for himself. Right. And it's just like, I've always loved that about him, but like this year in particular, he's gotten so much more confident. And a lot of it comes down to being sent to the HL, right? Like he was in the HL all last year. The guy is a beast and he belongs on this team and he belongs on the first line. Like he's doing things that are supposed to be done on the first line. Though the goals are coming for him and he's going to be, if he's not a high goal scorer, he's going to be a high point getter because he's playing with people like Pettersson. It's just a matter of when, not if.
Yeah. So you're getting some love in the chat here. Yeah, I'm loving this too. Having Joe on's been awesome tonight, and it's been a great night together. I just love your insights. I think you're gonna like this one, Joe. The chaos draft giveth, and the chaos draft taketh.
I would argue that he taketh more than he giveth sometimes, but that's okay. That's the chaos draft. I mean, we wouldn't call him that if it wasn't the case, right? And it's true. Like there are a lot of kind of downsides to having a player like Tyler Myers. Like how many penalties, and the same can go with Zadorov, but how many penalties do they get just for being tall, right? They throw a hit on a guy and it's just, you're tall and you're going to get that
100%.
Because it's a little too high, right? It's just
we have 3 twin. There's not twin towers. We've got triple towers with Susie too. So
yes, that's right.
Okay,
but
so
I'm excited to see Susie in the playoffs.
This is the first time I'm seeing this guy in the comments, so I just wanted to make sure I highlighted. What do you guys think of the refs tonight? We talked a little bit about this, but he brought up a good point. I thought the high stick with JT Miller was a bit iffy, and it was because it wasn't a high stick. It was a glove to the face, and it looked like a high stick on further review. And so I understand why you thought that. Any thoughts about that high stick?
I mean, honestly, like the refs are going to call stuff that they see at a high pace, right? You have to consider that everything's happening so fast, and they don't get a chance to like look at those plays over again. Like, it's definitely anything to the face, no matter what. You have to consider the fact that the other team's going to embellish it and make it worse than it actually was. I mean, look at the dive on who was that, by the way? It was oh my God. Who is the player that dove when Tocchet was calling him out? You could see Tocchet saying he dived.
Was that in this game?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't.
I don't remember.
For some reason I want to say it's Johansson or something, but
okay.
Anyway, whoever it was. But I mean, look at that. They're going to do whatever they can to draw a penalty, and the refs are going to call it as they see it. And if they see a guy do this, then they're going to call it.
Yeah.
My least favorite thing about reffing in the NHL is the fact that a play will happen directly in front of the ref who's like right here, and the play is right here, but the ref at the other end of the ice is calling the penalty because he sees 100%. It from like to me, that shouldn't be allowed. You know,
it happens in basketball all the time.
Yeah,
all the time. Down low, the guys at half court. It's like, give me a break. Okay, Joe, this is one. What about a Canucks Oilers final? What would be a Western Conference final? That would be an awesome one too. I personally would like this one.
And actually, by the way, I don't believe that could happen either because they're in the same division. So it would have to be a Canucks Oilers first round. That would literally be the only way that could happen. Unless the Oilers win their series, actually, never mind.
Yeah. I think it would be the first or the second round, or if the Oilers were a wild card and flipped over to the other side. But that's not going to happen. Why I want to play the Oilers is because I think our team's better than them.
Well, they are.
Yeah, we're 3-0 this year, and everyone's like, "Oh, they're playing better." We'll play them again. Even if we lose that game, we still are up 3-1. I don't know. I just have this feeling
think about all the
goaltending.
love. Think about all the love the Oilers got during that 16-game winning streak, and it took them playing. And you know what? I'm gonna probably catch flack from Oilers fans, but it took them playing against a good team to lose. Finally, you know, like you're playing a lot of crap teams to win every time. And yeah, you're going to get a decent winning streak. But I think the Oilers are getting way more respect defensively than they deserve, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. I just think that the Canucks are better than them defensively. I think they have a way better structure. Yeah, they've got McDavid, so you've always got a chance to win with McDavid and Draisaitl. But in the end, I think the Canucks have a way better defense.
I just want to make a comment about Dell's comment here. The answer to this question, Dell, is no. I'm not going to acknowledge that. Okay. All right, let's move on. Demko let in garbage goals. Nucks might miss playoffs. That's not true. That's not true. They're not missing the playoffs, brother.
No,
I appreciate you being here and commenting, but I'm telling you, the you know where you have the capital Nucks? It's the capital should be on the might. It's very rare for
I don't see it happening. I honestly don't. Like, they've been too good this year for that to happen. I just don't see it happening. They've been playing with such incredible 5-on-5 play. It would take a miracle for them to lose or to miss the playoffs. I just don't see it happening.
Just like Disturb is saying right here, right? So yeah. Speaking of some fun guys to be in here, Canuck Clay's here. Good to have you, Clay.
Clay, I didn't mean to bash you earlier. I wasn't bashing you.
He wasn't. You never said anything bad about Clay.
I know. I was telling him I was saying that he was too optimistic.
Oh,
yeah. But that's a good thing. Obviously, I just meant
no. Actually, I like his optimism. Canucks win streak so far this season. Is it 3 games, 5 games, 4 games, 5 games, 3 games, 3 games? Losing streaks through it. Wow, that's a great perspective, Clay.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not being a biased Canucks fan. These are facts. You're speaking facts right now, Clay. And so we appreciate you coming in, dropping the truth bombs and for all the haters out there that are against us and are like, or the Canucks fans that think everything's burning to the ground at the moment.
Yeah. And like I said, I think, you have to look at the way the games were lost. Yesterday's game obviously was a stinker. And you consider it that because of the amount of goals that were let in and how they were let in and whatnot. But tonight's game, I would take a loss like this 3 more times because they at least played like they deserved to win. And I think that's the way you have to look at it. This team is capable of so much. And a lot of times it is all about scoring that lucky tip in goal, right? And that's what happened for Colorado tonight. So yeah, it's definitely all about how you look at it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, we've been going for an hour and 2 minutes. This has been a lot of fun, Joe. Have a lot of people in the chat here. We'll just end tonight with Clay's no problem, just got here, so didn't hear what you said about
It wasn't negative, I swear. It was literally,
I was just
trying to say you're a positive guy.
Yeah, it's good. So I want to let everyone know, thank you for being part of this stream, everyone, being in here, comments. I know I couldn't get to, we had probably 150 comments tonight. Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating. 100 comments tonight. I read most of them, but thank you so much for being here and commenting. And Joe, thank you so much for being here, my friend.
Thank you.
I would love to connect with you after. So once the intro goes through or the outro, I would love to just chat with you. But man, I appreciate your time and I appreciate your insights. I appreciate your positivity. And I'm with you. I'm so excited about watching this team and not only making the playoffs, but seeing what we do in the playoffs. That is, to me, it's like I don't know about you, but the Canuck flags are coming out, and have you seen them around town lately?
I have, yeah.
And I'm sitting there going, "Wow, this is early." So
I have a Canuck sweater, like an actual sweater with the Orca logo on it, and I'm not wearing it because it's dirty, unfortunately. But every time I wear it, people are like, "I love the shirt," and it's funny because you consider how the team was over the last few years when they were down in the dumps. you would get nothing. But this year, because of the way they're playing, it's like that bandwagon is starting to build, right? And you're starting to see more and more people climb on board. And to me, I love that. I'm never going to bash somebody for being a bandwagon fan, because if it means they're supporting your team, that's all that matters.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So thanks everyone for being here. If you haven't hit the like and subscribe, please do. As you've seen in the banner above, I love making Canucks content that is passionate, realistic, and honest. And also follow me on Facebook, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Man, think about all the platforms I'm on. This is insane. I need a life. Okay. But I'm really excited to have everyone here. So any final comments, Joe, before we end the show?
Thank you for having me on. I had a blast, and I hope you will have me on again sometime. And
absolutely.
Thank you guys for all your comments and questions, and go Canucks go.
Absolutely. Go Canucks go.